Alright, so this goes by grams. I like to measure out by grams. So you can put your bowl on here, and then you can set your scale to 0. And then for 3 cups of flour, it's 413 grams, I believe. You just measure that out.
413?
Mm-hmm. 413 grams. And then I like to do this because you can, there you go. Oh, and then another tip for you, I'm gonna do it the wrong way to show y'all. When you measuring stuff out, you want to have all of your flour in there. Just imagine you spooned it, and then you want to level it out and take the back of something, and then spoon it off, and that's a full level cup. That's how you measure for. You don't want to like shake it off because it's then you have too much flour. So then with the yeast, you don't want to put, if you ever made something with salt and yeast, you don't want to put salt and yeast together because the salt will kill the yeast. So you want to put it on the opposite side. And I like to use pink salt. I don't know if everybody knows this is my shelf.
They got that at the Dollar Tree.
Yeah, this is where I get it from.
Me too.
So I'm gonna shake it. Which one? This one?
Oh, the signs. I do got that flour.
So we're gonna put 1 teaspoon of salt.
Can I get that kind from Kroger?
No, we recording.
This flour. Yeah, you can get the flour from Kroger and Target. Walmart don't sell it no more. And you can get it online, so they'll send you coupons sometimes. So that's the salt. Okay. And then this is going to be a half a teaspoon of, this is the yeast. I like to do this. And then that's a half a teaspoon of active charcoal.
And put it on the opposite side.
You can put it on the opposite side. So I'm going to tell y'all that a little bit, I like to add a little bit more salt than the recipe called for. Okay. So then you mix it up because you want your yeast to be coated by the flour. You give it a good little mix. And you can even sift it if you want to. If you want to add that extra step, you can sift it. And then the trick is you want to use warm water. You can use spring water. Most of the time I'll use like Crystal Geyser spring water. And you can just warm that in the microwave.
You want some bottle water? Bottle water?
Y'all want to do a microwave? Y'all want to do So it's going to be 1 3/4 cups.
You use exactly, girl.
I'm gonna eyeball that, but I like to add the water in a little bit at a time. And I say put the water between 90 to 110 degrees. Anything higher, you'll kill your yeast. So you're gonna try to keep it between that.
So you said that the salt will kill the yeast, right?
It will, like if you put it together.
Is that why you have to coat it first, so when the salt hit it, it don't like kill the yeast?
Right. In the flour. Yeah, when you stir it up in the flour.
I have that question as well. Now I've seen where they activate the yeast by actually putting it in the water, let the bubbles do its thing. That shouldn't matter, right? So
Not for this, it don't, but like if you were making like cinnamon rolls or yeast rolls or brioche bread, then you would want to start out that way because you want your yeast to start being active. So when you add the flour to it, it instantly starts making that gluten start producing the flour. We can try it. No.
It just got in. Any more questions?
I got a thermometer. I forgot to bring it, but yeah, I'll test it. And if it's anything higher than 110, then I'll let it cool down.
So no hotter than 110.
Preferably 90, but no higher than 110.
What's the reason for that? Is make
Because
everything.
it'll kill your yeast. Yep. The yeast right now, that's your baby. You want to take extra care of your yeast.
Somebody still make the notes. I have to see it like this.
Y'all want to see how I feel? Yeah.
You feel like a baby. You said like a baby bottle?
Okay, if it feel like that, I know. Oh, she gonna be happy.
Anybody else? Okay, so let me take it off of this. Okay, so I like to make a well in the middle just a little bit and add a little bit at a time. You can always add more, but you can't take out. So we'll call for 1 3/4 cup. I'll add half of that. Stir it all in as well as it can be. Let's see if I can turn it. And then at this point too, you want to make sure you have like any extra stuff you're gonna add to it. Like if you're gonna add, sometimes you can add flour. I've added honey to it, but you melt the honey down and add that to your water. You know how honey get kind of like sticky and stick together. But like anything that you want to add to it, you want to already have that prepared on the side, because if you stop and add it to it after you have it all mixed up, it's so, you'll see the batter is so sticky, it's gonna be like impossible to get it distributed evenly throughout. And I don't know why, but sometimes like if it's a humid day, it doesn't need as much water. If it's a dry day, sometimes you may have to add a little bit more water. My rule of thumb is add a teaspoon at a time. It could take a while, but it's worth it, because like I said, you can always add, but you can't take out. And if it's too wet, then it won't rise properly. It's another real easy bread. This one is like a universal type bread, but it's another one that we make at home, and it reminds you of like a butternut sandwich type bread. But that one you need a mixer, and I was gonna do that one, but I don't know if everybody have a mixer. So I was trying to think of something that would be, everybody got a bowl and a fork. All right, so this is gonna take all of it.
I didn't think you was gonna get it that. I didn't think you was gonna get it that.
Yeah, you just take your time. You just take your time. And it's a real wet batter,
It's
y'all.
wet.
And you kind of just fold it.
Can you tell me some more?
They got to sit
Huh?
down. You can't see on the
Oh, okay.
the video.
Sit down, children.
Yeah, yeah.
Can't see. Sit down, baby.
Okay, there we go.
Next, sit
Sit
down.
down, man.
As you stir, you building up the gluten in it too with the yeast and everything.
So I got a question. How do people make gluten-free stuff?
It's a certain type of flour they use.
Oh,
It's a certain type of flour how it's milled and processed.
Okay.
Yeah. It's real dense though. It's real dense.
Okay.
Okay, y'all, it's done. So what you would do with this, once it's all mixed up, I forgot my spatula to go around, like the plastic one, to get all that stuff. But once it's all mixed up, it should be real sticky and wet like this. And then you're just gonna take a lid, put it on it. I can let it sit in the oven overnight, and then I bake it in the morning, or you can let it sit for a minimum of 6 hours. You just want to put a lid on it. Don't sit it like in your refrigerator or somewhere your house is cold. Put it like in your oven. If you haven't used your oven, and just let it sit there for that amount of time, and then it's gonna double, even sometimes triple in size. So if you put a lid on here, it might even touch the top of the lid. So you can just put a little oil on top of the lid. I wouldn't put foil or like a plastic wrap, because it will stick to that. And then once it comes out, you are gonna bake it. And then when you bake it, you want to take parchment paper. You definitely want to use parchment paper. Don't oil. Definitely use parchment paper, because this is so wet. And then oil your parchment paper just a little bit. And then you want to bake it in something that has a lid to it, because you're going to put it in your oven. Then turn your oven on. Don't preheat your oven. That's important for this recipe, because you want the yeast to slowly activate and slowly rise up. If you put it in, it's going to shock it, and then it won't do its first rise in the oven. well, second rise, because this is the first rise. So then you put your lid on, pop it in the oven on 450 degrees for 30 minutes. After it comes, after the 30 minutes, your timer goes off. I recommend you use a timer, because you'll walk away. 30 minutes go fast, and you'll be like, oh, shoot the bread. From experience, I know. So then after that, you take your lid off, still leave it on 450, or you can do what I do. The recipe I learned is from, it always overcooked it, so then I turn my oven down to 440 degrees. I have an oven thermometer. You can get those at Kroger. They're like $8. Sometimes I think I got mine on sale for like $5. But I think regularly they're $8. Amazon sell them too, because everybody's oven is different. Like my oven cooks 5 degrees higher than what it says on there. So they shut your turn your oven down. I would say 5 to 10 degrees when you take the lid off, and then cook it. It's for another 30 minutes, but I always check it at 25. So set your timer for 25 and then check it. And then the magic of, as what they say on TV, the magic of television is done. And then depending on what shape your container is you bake it in, that's the shape the bread will take. You can even put it in a loaf pan, and then you can cover it like with your covering or something like that. But just remember, if you do cover it with foil, to put oil on top of your foil. Okay. And then this is how it comes out. And that's how I look on the inside. Yeah, I think it's off the chain. We be tearing this bread up. I'm gonna cut it up so everybody can try some. I'm gonna cut it up. I'm gonna cut it up.
Great bread, y'all.
And then I melted. I keep butter at room temperature, and then I took some the honey my husband sells, and then I put some honey in there and made y'all some honey butter to try.
We love it.
No,
Oh, I thought you was out there.
that's just baby legs. No, that's hard. You got a knife.
Real butter, not more.
It's a butter knife over here.
No, I need a sharp knife. Or a serrated knife.
Look in that first drawer, yeah, right there.
It's butter knife.
I got one. Okay.
All right, I got one more question. So how many rises is it? Is it just 2 or is it more?
So it's the first rise after. So this is like considered, like if I was to cover this up, when I go home, I'm gonna cover this up, and then it'll rise overnight. Oh, and I forgot to tell you all how I figure out what time. Like if I want to bake the bread in the morning, when I come back from taking the kids to school, or in the morning while they're going to school, I will say, okay, I got to get up at 8, and then I'll count back 12 hours, and that lets me know what time I need to get out of bed and put this in. Or you can do it in the morning if you want to cook it later in the evening, then put it on. But always just make sure you count, because you'll start it now, and then you're like, oh shoot, I got to put this in the oven at 3 in the morning, and you don't want to be waking
So
up.
what happens if you go over?
It's not gonna bake properly. It won't bake properly. Yeah.
So just 6 hours.
6 to 12. 6 is the minimum. 12, I would say, is the most.
So basically,
This is
before you go to
12
bed,
hours.
mix it and then
Yep. I think I did this last night at 10 o'clock. At 10 o'clock, and then I baked it this morning, I think around 9:30, 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
Every time you put it in the oven, you must
It's
put it in.
6:30.
Put it in the oven, put your lid on it, and then turn your oven on. Yeah, don't preheat your oven. For 30 minutes, and then remove the lid, and then put it in, set your timer again for another 25 to 30 minutes. I would say check it at 25, because like I said, everybody knows it. Yeah.
What's that stuff in the bowl right there?
This is the mix we just made. This
they
we
gotta
just
sit?
made. We gotta sit for 12 hours. 6 to 12 hours. 6 at minimum.
Look at your glass.
I can't see without them, y'all, when I'm reading stuff. Okay, I need something to cut it on. This is a paper plate over here.
It's a place over
Oh,
here.
you gotta cut
Yeah.
them.
She got it.
So you made that?
Yeah.
I'm stuck on something.
She grabbed it. She grabbed it. Like to put it in her mouth and teed on it.